another edition of the Daily Racing Form Weekend Preview. I am Gino Bacola alongside my good friend Scott Shapiro, producer Lucia helping us out, pulling the strings behind the scenes as we get ready for a big weekend coming up over at Aqueduct. It's Cigar Mile Day on Saturday. They have a couple other graded stakes races on the card. We're going to preview a few of them for you. But before we do, we want to let all of you know about the DRF Bet on Sports section. You know Daily Racing Form from that great information from horse racing, trusted source of incredible news for all the years, but now you can get information about sports betting as well when you click on that Bet on Sports section, sports news, sportsbook reviews, and you can claim up to $5,000 in sportsbook offers when you look at that Bet on Sports section. Scott, we've got a big field to discuss in the Grade 2 Remsen. What's really fun about handicapping races like this, when you're talking about 2-year-olds, you're talking about horses that are future stars of the sport. So anytime we preview a race like this, we could be looking at a couple of horses that could be in the starting gate for the Kentucky Derby next year. Let's meet this field for the Grade 2 Remsen, starting with day 1 starter, who comes off of a third place finish in the Nashua. He was 10 lengths behind that day, and he did finish well behind one of the rivals he's going to face in this race, drawn towards the outside in Probably Dreaming. Could you build a case for day 1 starter down on the inside?
Not really, but I did want to mention that Dornoch and Mo Donegal exited this race as winners, and
Great
they
point.
both were factors, to your point, in the Triple Crown in their respective years, 2023, 2021. I think day 1 starter is very much up against it. Maybe along the rail, has the tactical speed to be involved early, but I don't love the pedigree stretching out, and I just think has something to prove from a class perspective.
Number 2, Paladin comes out of a race where he and Renegade were 1-2 in there, and we're going to watch the replay of this race. Paladin actually crossed the wire second there. Renegade got by him. There was a disqualification. They made a change. I mean, it was a tough change, Scott, because we can see, I think both of the horses ran well that day. Paladin still on the lead in here. And he ends up getting put up via the DQ. What happens is down towards the inside, Renegade gets down there, and then he's kind of drifting out, bumping a little bit. So, I mean, I saw it, and I do think there was a foul, but it was a tough DQ if you were someone who backed Renegade that day.
Without question. I think we see worse. I think we've seen more, but, understandable DQ. Paladin, $1.9 million, not the most expensive colt in this race, I will say that. But he's the one that's getting all the buzz. I think he's one of the favorites in the Derby futures early on. He ran huge. He's expected to run better as the distances go longer. Probably a little bit too short of a price for me to want to bet, though, in this spot.
I did. Comes off a 4th place finish at Churchill Downs. He was in the street sense on October the 26th. Kind of flattened out a little bit late, going a mile and a 16th. Has to deal with more distance in here. Can you build a case for him?
A little bit. I don't know if he's good enough to win, but he was 4 wide into the first turn and kind of 3 wide throughout that race, and still finished 4th in his first try against winners. And the runner-up in that race, Universe, came back to run a pretty good second in the Kentucky Jockey Club to a really good-looking runner in Further Ado. So I don't think he's out of question here. He should get a pretty good ground-saving trip under Joel Rosario.
Yeah, speed figures wise, he got a decent number last time out too. Grittiness will add the blinkers. He's still a maiden though. He hasn't crossed the wire first yet. His dam was a Grade 2 winner, and he did finish behind a horse named Courting. Courting is the number 6, so he'll have to turn the tables on the common rival who beat him a couple of stalls to the outside.
Yeah, and that was only a 4-horse field, as we'll talk about a little more with Courting. But I think the blinkers going on feels a little bit of desperation. This horse hasn't gotten out of the gate well, hasn't run up to expectations. Pretty well bred, but hasn't done it yet on the racetrack.
Chambersville has been only on the turf in 3 starts. And when you look at the pedigree, the dam never tried the dirt, and just one of the direct siblings won on the dirt. A lot of turf in that pedigree.
It feels like one of those situations where you want to kind of make sure you don't have a dirt horse. Understandably, that's where the big money is. This is a horse, like you said, both sides, dirt, turf. The first race, you might not go to the dirt right away because there isn't a race to go on the dirt at Saratoga or 2 turns, but we'll see what happens. The runner-up in that race on the turf, Happy Prince, is kind of a career maiden, so this is a big step up.
You were talking about how a $1.9 million purchase was not the highest purchase in the field. How about this one? Courting is a $5 million purchase here. This one is a full brother to Clairiere, the multiple grade one winner who earned $3.2 million. And the dam of this one, Cavorting, won the first couple starts of her career. She finished 8 of 13. She was a multiple grade one winner. So as far as pedigree is concerned, he's got a very, very big one. And we're watching him win on November the 9th over at Aqueduct. He was able to pretty much get to the lead, put away the other early speed, and he draws off, finishing in front of Grittiness, who he'll face again in this race.
Yeah, I mean, it's not often that the pedigrees in these families leads to future stars like it does. To me, those are a lot of horses you want to fade, but this family certainly hasn't been the case. Now, this horse, that race was a 4-horse field we just watched when he made the lead as 1-20, maybe 1-5-ish. But that makes me a little leery about this horse. He debuted at a 1-turn mile. I don't think he's been all that fast. To Todd in the mornings would be just my take. I have not talked to Todd or anyone related to the horse, but he just doesn't seem like he kind of made an easy lead in a little bit of a slow pace. I'm against this one, but 5 million might beat me.
I agree. I'm poking holes with him on the win end because I think he's going to get bet a little bit off of that big pedigree. So we got to make sure we get the right value there. We move to Igniter. And what I liked about him in his most recent win, Scott, his second start, it was stretching out. He sat a pretty nice trip off the pace a little bit. I think he can sit and he doesn't have to get caught up in the battle early on the lead. And he beat a horse named Rebel Instinct, who came back to win a maiden special weight next out with an 85 Beyer speed figure. It might have been a pretty strong race that Igniter won on September the 27th.
Right, and the race before it, the runner-up Oscar's Hope was pretty good, and it's Richard Dutrow did not have a good summer at Saratoga, so for this one at 26 to run third there. The bottom side of this pedigree, the dam was a $618,000 earner, very strong female family. Volatile's a sprinter, but I wouldn't be surprised if this one likes the extra distance.
Moving to the next one, Concarneau, who comes in from Laurel Park. Just thought this horse seemed a little bit up against it based on the races that they're coming out of.
Complete reach for this horse, 50-1 on the morning line. If he runs better than those odds, it'll be to my surprise.
Yeah, it seems like the next few, though, are logical contenders. You can make a strong case for Renegade coming off of that race where he actually crossed the wire first but got DQ'd. I mean, I thought he showed a lot of ability. He was loaded. He was waiting for room. He got an opening. He pushed through up the challenge. And then when he did get the lead, he drifted out a little bit, but it was a good effort. And I thought it was kind of late to make a change sometimes, too. It was like right towards the wire, so I could have been either way with that DQ.
Well, I'm hoping it helps his price a little bit, the DQ, but he comes out of a super fast Saratoga race there where he was just up against it. My one concern is he doesn't get out of the gate very well. If he fixes that, his pedigree suggests and everything about him suggests he can finish and he should get better as the distances get longer.
Balboa was in the Bob Baffert barn earlier in his career, came over to Brittany Russell's barn on November the 8th in a sprint race on a muddy track, and he absolutely crushed the field, winning by 5. Now it's going to be a little bit different because this is going 1 1/8 miles at Aqueduct versus going short on a muddy track last time out.
Yeah, the pedigree is there to want the distance, but it's going to be a tall task based on what we've seen. Speed to his inside and a tough post in the 1 1/8 miles. These outside posts are no bargain.
Talkin won his career debut, and then in his second start, he was the runner-up in the Grade 1 Champagne. It's a pretty good effort for him, showing some nice late energy for second. Nobody was beating the winner that day. He finished in front of a horse named Universe, you had mentioned previously, who came back to run pretty well. What do you do with Talkin?
There's really not a lot to knock with this horse. I would think they're going to try to get involved early with Kendrick Carmouche and an outside post. But again, I wouldn't want to take too short of a price with a post. The 11 hole could be very difficult for this one to overcome.
Rounding out the field is probably Dreaming, who finished in front of day one starter. He had won his first 3 starts before finishing second in the Nashua. That outside draw could be pretty tough for him here, though.
Yeah, the tactical speed style, not great, but he's going to be a big price, and this is a barn that does very well with 2-year-olds.
Some future stars of the sport on Saturday in the Grade 2 Remsen. We move to selections. Scott, you're going to go with Renegade, 9-2-3-7 for Scott. I'm going to put the 7 Igniter on top, hoping he sits a pretty good trip. 7-6-11-2 for me, but don't go anywhere. When we return, we're going to preview race number 10 at Aqueduct on Saturday. That's the Grade 2 Cigar Mile. race number 10 on Saturday at Aqueduct is the Grade 2 Cigar Mile. Before we get into previewing that race, we want to let all of you know about one of the great products from Daily Racing Form right now, DRF AI. If you want to ask any questions, if you need some help playing the races, ask DRF AI. One way that I like to use this tool, I'm always looking for long shots. So I would say, hey, this weekend on Saturday at Aqueduct, can you find me some horses that are 10-1 and above that you may think are live in the late pick 4? And then boom, it'll give me a couple choices each race. I can then take another look into them, save you a lot of time in your handicapping. Check out DRF AI. Race 10, Saturday, Aqueduct. It's the Grade 2 Cigar Mile. In this one, Scott, we don't really have any of like the top horses in training, any big, real, legitimate Grade 1 type horses. We can start things out with a very solid New York bred, Doc Sullivan, who is a multiple New York bred stakes winner, comes off of a really nice victory last time out. He's not been quite as competitive when he's faced open company, but he has faced some pretty tough horses in open company when you're looking at like, Bookham Dano in Scotland. He has been right behind Crazy Mason a couple times. I go back and forth. Initially, I thought, probably going to be a little bit too tough for him. But then you go through the rest of the field. I think he stacks up well from this field with a class standpoint, and he might be able to sit a pretty fair trip down on the inside, maybe third or fourth, just behind the leaders. What do you do with Doc Sullivan?
Well, I didn't pick him on top. I think this race, though, as we'll talk about the favorites, and here we're going to take a look at his most recent dominant effort against Lesser over the slop against New York State breds. I think he's very interesting, even though I didn't pick him on top, and I think the two favorites are likely to hit the board. But Johnny Ortiz is a very streaky trainer. His trainer, 5 for 19 over the last 30 days, 231 ROI. This is a guy that had a very cold spring and summer, and I don't think this horse is that far out of it. These New York breds are capable in some of these lower, weaker renditions of some of these stakes races in New York.
Yeah, just kind of playing out the trip in my head. I think horses like Mika will want to be forwardly placed, who we'll talk about next. Mika was a 14-length winner at Laurel Park last time out. And honestly, Scott, you start to dive into his overall career. His debut, he's sprinting on the dirt. Then in his race at Kentucky, it's right before a long layoff. You can probably put a line through that. He comes back out of the race from Kentucky off the bench. I mean, his races going long on the main track are both very easy open length victories. He's a total wild card in here.
He is. And if you're just looking to get a little bang for a lot, for your buck, not a terrible horse because he doesn't have a lot against him. The thing is those races are 2-turn races. This is a 1-turn, and often the speed doesn't play quite the same in these 1-turn races when they go a little faster early on and whatnot. But I couldn't fault anybody for, taking a little swing here. Of the long shots, I like him most.
Yeah, I agree. Pentathlon comes off of a win over at Belmont and Aqueduct. That was on October the 24th. He's had a pretty nice trip that day, opened up. Just kind of feel like he'll have to take another step up off of that. Speed figures, he's not that far behind, but just on a class standpoint, it does seem like this is a tougher group.
Yeah, I don't think he's quite been what they'd hoped for. The legendary Phipps stable, Shug McGahee, took a lot of money early on in his career, took a lot of money for the first time last time out, which kind of tells you the kind of quality of field versus the one he's going to be facing here. He is not my favorite of the long shots because, well, I already told you who my favorite was.
Crazy Mason is up next. You know what you're going to get with this guy, Scott. He's going to drop back. He's going to make one late run. He's a Grade 2 winner. He's Grade 1 placed. And for a horse with his running style, he's really consistent. It's now been, 7 races in a row, 6 of them really good. The only one he didn't really fire was when he went out to Del Mar for the Bing Crosby, and he loves this track at Aqueduct. He's won 3 times here. He's going to come running.
Yeah, and if you're going to listen to me to pick this horse, and you might be cussing me out early on because if you don't know this horse, he is way out of it early. Yeah, but he comes with the run every time, and I think he's better than these horses right now at 1 turn. I could be proven wrong. There's a couple that are going to take more money, but I think with any sort of setup on the front end, he's going to come with a huge run.
Scott, what are you doing giving me this horse 15 lengths out of it, man? Come on. And here comes Crazy Mason flying late. We move to Brazenly. I just had a hard time making a case for him, Scott. He has the lowest buyer top in the field, and he's 0 for his last 17.
Yeah, and he hasn't even taken on this level of competition. He was out west taking on much lesser in some Calbred races. This is a big swing. The most positive thing I can come up with is he does hit the board a lot, and he gets Johnny V for the first time. Johnny V, obviously capable of moving horses up, but probably not off IRAD.
Phileas Fogg is a grade 2 winner. He adds the blinkers. I mean, he is recently in really nice form for Gustavo Rodriguez. He has 5 wins, 3 seconds, and then third when he was DQ'd in a race. He got DQ'd from third in the Jockey Club from coming over at the start. He caused some bumping with Mindframe there. I'm my main concern with this horse isn't any of his recent form. It's good. He's solid. He's honest. I do wonder if he is a little bit better going longer than at this particular distance where they're going a 1-turn mile, because I think Scott, with his running style, when they're able to go farther, he's able to really get out front. He's able to get comfortable, slow things down a little bit, use that speed as a weapon. I'm not saying he can't win a race like this at a mile, but it doesn't seem like he's quite as quick at a mile to get the lead and dominate some of these horses. It is a really good spot on paper for him, though, because there aren't really any monsters in here.
Yeah, I mean, they're taking a shot. Before this was a grade 1 event, I would have understood it a little more. He might be just better than these. I would not be one bit surprised if he gets bet down to, even money and wins easy, because he's had a better season than all these horses. But it's that 1-turn mile speed horse. If he was a little more tactical, I just don't trust him. And they're adding the blinkers too, which just makes me wonder if they're looking for something that hasn't been there yet.
Rounding out the field is Bishop's Bay. If you just toss the grade 1 Forgo, I mean, you got 5 wins in a row for him. He's been, I think, only out of the exacta 1 time in his 12 career starts. He likes Aqueduct. He likes the distance. Thing about him, they've handled him very cautiously. He hasn't really been in a lot of big races against like grade 1 company. I'm curious too with his running style. He always has to be pretty close to the lead. If he had to come from a little far out of it, can he pass horses 4 or 5 lengths out? So I'll knock him a little bit because I think he'll take some money, but he's a very honest horse, Scott. He almost always shows up with a good effort.
They thought this was a Derby horse way back, and they've managed him way differently ever since. I just think he's, not all that. And when he's a short price, he's beaten me many times. I'm going to let him beat me again on Saturday.
Yeah, there's 2-to-1s or 8-to-5 horses that we can find that we like a little bit more than him. Scott's going to go with Crazy Mason on top, 4-7-6-1 for me. Doc Sullivan could offer some value down on the inside, 1-7-4-6. Don't go anywhere. We'll preview the Demoiselle when we return. Go back in time a little bit to race number 3 at Aqueduct on Saturday. It's a smaller field, so we could use our shorter segment to preview the grade 2 Demoiselle going 1 mile and an eighth on the main track there. And Scott will start things out with Jumpin' the Gun, who has raced 4 times. She's won 3 of them, and her races are all over at Delaware Park. So this will be kind of an acid test for her. She'll get a step up in competition to see where she really stacks up. But she hasn't done a whole lot wrong in those races, and she is coming out of a race where there were 2 horses to come back to win their next start. So the race is actually a live race, but this will be a much tougher group than what she's faced so far.
Yeah, normally I see these Delaware horses, and no knock on Delaware. Both my parents are from there, but I think that it's a big step up. But I look at this field, and we just don't know a lot about, especially at 1 mile and an eighth. And this horse has progressed really nicely, has a good inside draw, and has the ability to get the 2 turns completely based on pedigree. So I ended up thinking this filly has a big, big chance in this spot. More so because of what we'll talk about later, but maybe this filly is better than we think. Was hammered in all 4 of the starts to kick off the career.
Yeah, and I'm warming up to her a little bit more too, because I couldn't get too creative in this race, and she doesn't seem far below the rest of this field. Like if she is 5-6-1 and above, that's a very fair price on her in this spot. We move to Schilling, who won back-to-back races at Aqueduct. We're watching the November 6th race where she's winning the Tempted by 4 lengths. She's actually defeating Believable, who is the number 6, her rival, on Saturday. So pretty good performance from her. She's able to put away the other early speed, and then she opens up by 5, and Believable is just kind of on the scene late for second.
You know, the worst part about this filly is you're taking a shorter price likely in this race than you ever have on her in her career. And, this is going to be theoretically the toughest spot. It's not a filly they were super high on, didn't get the start at Saratoga. I feel like she's going to be involved early, but I think the filly to her outside is faster than her. I don't really see a huge, route to success for her in this race unless she's really legitimate.
Zany is the 3. She was a really impressive debut winner on November the 2nd at Gulfstream Park. She was just off the lead. She was second. I mean, she was always involved and really close to it early on. She put away that other speed horse and she draws off. What was nice about seeing her win at this distance, Scott, is that her dam was a 4-time winner and all of those wins were going long. So she actually should be fine going a distance like this. Her dam actually won the grade 3 top flight going 1 mile and an eighth at Aqueduct.
Yeah, this is interesting. This is the filly that is going to be the favorite, but is she going to be there? She's been at Gulfstream down in Florida. That means going on. Todd's got another one in the race. Everything about her, makes you think that she's tough. The only thing I didn't like about the debut is she didn't break all that well in that race, and you never know how that's going to matter, as she stretches out. But she looked really fast in that race, and she's clearly going to be the one you have to beat on the tote board.
Concurrently won on November the 2nd. That was breaking the maiden for her. She's another one who has a solid pedigree. Her dam was a 5-time winner, all of them going long. Multiple stakes winner, was grade 3 placed. Thought this was a pretty good effort when breaking the maiden, but she did lose to Believable 2 starts back, so she's going to have to turn the tables on that rival.
Right. I think I don't think she's going to be 3-1. David is the best in the business. Aragon, our colleague at creating these morning lines, maybe be a little bit higher of price. She didn't take money early on in her career. I think that she's going to one of the ones that's going to really appreciate the added ground in here. She's been at 1 turn. Now she's going to stretch out to 2 turns. So concurrently, 3-1 on the line. Maybe we'll get a little bit of a better price, but still don't love her chances to win.
Ivy Girl won on November the 15th over at Aqueduct. That was in her second start. She's a half to a horse named Bayesian, who was multiple stakes winner, grade 1 place. Can you build a case for that one?
She's coming out of a maiden claiming races and one at Parks, which is softer competition, 6-horse field where she was beat 13 lengths. And then she had to break her maiden in for a tag. She's been available for you and I for 40K. I think she seems most up against it, and I think the tote board will suggest it.
We round out the field with Believable, coming off that runner-up effort behind Schilling. The blinks come on. Can you make a case for Believable?
Well, I mean, based on pedigree, this is a filly that should love the added ground. Way back, her full sibling, who it's been a while, tenfold, I think was second in the Preakness, though, for Steve Asmussen. I don't love the way this one ran in either of her races, particularly lose last time out. She doesn't break well. They're adding the blinkers, but 800K, this filly's supposed to get better as the distances get longer. So who knows? But I have a feeling we'll take a little more money than I would want to take.
We round out the field. We move to selections for Scott. It's going to be the 1 jumping the gun, 1-3-2-6 for Scott. I'm going to go Zany 3-4-2-6. I'm not quite as creative, so if you're looking for some more value, you probably want to lean with Scott. That's going to do it for us this week. Thanks so much for joining us again on the Daily Racing Form Weekend Preview.